Welcome back. We have Jonathan Macy, Yale Law School professor and author of Corporate Governance, Promises Made, Promises Broken, and our great friend Dan Yergin, CNBC global energy analyst and chairman of Cambridge Energy Research Associates. Gentlemen, we are a wee bit tight. Jonathan, from your op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, you're saying government's the problem here. Government has made the financial panic or the financial problem worse.
Yes, it has, Larry, in my view, in two ways. Number one, every day we have a different major strategy that's spent by the government, and that's put a tremendous amount of uncertainty and panic into the market. And number two, when we solve this thing with private dollars, the people who make the wrong choices internalize those costs. With the Paulson-Bernanke proposals, we're throwing hundreds of billions of dollars of government money at the problem, and it's the taxpayers who are going to pay for the wrong guesses. So everybody's throwing answers against the wall. And I prefer to do it with other people's money rather than the taxpayers' money.
Well, Dan Yergin, once again over the weekend, I spoke to Alexander Hamilton, and he said he did something exactly like this in the early 1790s. And sometimes you have to take big government actions to preserve the banking system in order to preserve free market capitalism, I think which can't survive without credit.
I think Professor Massey's right. The messaging has been, to put it mildly, I guess you'd say confusing. But I think the last 28 days we've been living not with moral hazard, but with systemic risk, a meltdown of the markets. And it's just run out of time, run out of cards. And Gordon Brown seemed to have something to work, and that's about the best thing that's there. And otherwise, what we're having is called a credit freeze or credit drought. But we have a dehydration of the economy going on with people not having credit. So, as you say, Alexander Hamilton has a point.
Jonathan Macy, without credit, I don't see how, you'd have a lengthy, deep, depression-like situation. That's my biggest worry. As much of a free market guy as I am, I don't see how you cannot and hopefully either save and reform the banking system.
Well, I think that's right. I'm not opposed to injecting liquidity into the system. The question is whether or not the government actions and the way that these government actions were taken contributed to the solution or contributed to the problem. And my view is they contributed to the problem because there wasn't enough free market and there was too much panic and there wasn't enough traditional monetary policy.
We're just up against it tonight, gentlemen.
One thing that's very important, though, is how people interpret the lessons.
Jonathan Macy, Dan Yergin.